While the world of The Witcher is utterly fascinating with all of its lore and history, the thing that actually draws most people in, at least when they first play the games or read the books, is the characters. People who not only show bouts of heroism and selflessness, but also more menacing and ominous individuals who display characteristics more befitting of a demon rather than a human being. And speaking of demons, probably one of my favorite villains in the whole series is the one and only Gaunter O'Dimm from the Hearts and Stone DLC for The Witcher 3. He's a character we actually first meet right at the start of the base game in the tavern in White Orchard, who knows a little too much about our friends and goals, but simply helps us and says that maybe one day our paths will cross again. And lo and behold, they do much later on. Gaunter O'Dimm, also known as the Master of Mirrors or Man of Glass, is an extraordinarily powerful individual who is known to create pacts with people in exchange for their very souls. Should someone break their pact, their life and very essence itself will forever belong to Gaunter. In-game, we even at one point get to see O'Dimm quite literally control the fabric of time and space itself, with nothing more than a clap, freezing everyone around him except for Geralt as he speaks with him in private.
Don't make me beg! It's my treat!
Show off.
Of course I am. Wouldn't you be? Time's a marvelous plaything.
And a great spice to use in gingerbread.
So, you were listening.
So obviously this mysterious man is more than meets the eye, and his powers and fixation on souls has led many in the community to believe that he may actually be a very powerful demon that is running rampant on the continent. We even in-game get to hear some characters like Shakeslock exclaim that Gaunter is quite literally evil incarnate and could wrought destruction for the entire world. But during our time spent with him, Gaunter has a lot more depth than just a maniacally evil caricature. He seems to display a love of watching the suffering and pain of others, but as far as we know, any instance in which this occurs, by his hands at least, is always due to technically noble or just causes. It would appear that he never lies, cheats, or steals, but rather abides by his contracts and promises very strictly. So should you cross him or break an oath, he will subject you to some of the strangest and most disturbing horrors out there. As to who the man really is though, many in the community theorize that Gaunter may actually be the devil himself. You see, the story we play out in the Hearts and Stone DLC with Gaunter as the main protagonist has a ton of striking similarities to the Polish folktale of Pan Twidarski, who is a man who makes a deal with the devil to gain mystical powers like summoning his dead wife, who in the end meets a tragic fate and loses his soul to pure evil itself. So could it be that Gaunter O'Dimm is a devil or deity of sorts? It certainly would explain his control over space and time itself, and would also clarify why this strange man seems to know everything about Geralt even before meeting him. Another piece of evidence for this theory is actually the man's name itself, because the 3 letters that start each part of Gaunter O'Dimm's name actually spell out God, which could be another hint that we are dealing with an all-powerful force here. In fact, we essentially get confirmation of this based on the very last things Gaunter O'Dimm says at the end of the DLC. Because right at the end of the Heart and Stone storyline, we have the choice to either save or abandon Von Everec, who Gaunter has made a contract with. If we abandon Von Everec, then Gaunter gets his soul, but if we agree to take O'Dimm on in a final challenge of wits to save Everec's soul, and we succeed, we are met with this final cutscene of Gaunter O'Dimm speaking in a strange language and then disappearing.
Gotcha.
Begone, you've lost.
What you are hearing is a form of Elder Speech, or ancient tongue of the Witcher universe, and it's been widely theorized by many fans that CD Projekt Red actually based this speech off of medieval Georgian languages, and if we go off of this assumption, this final speech can roughly be translated to, "You are insignificant. You think you have defeated me, but you are wrong. I can't be killed. I will be back." This foreboding final message from O'Dimm seems to imply that he will return at some point. And even more, if what he's saying is true, then surely O'Dimm is some sort of all-powerful deity, potentially even God or the devil themselves. But we still have so many questions about this mysterious character. Is Gaunter actually an evil incarnate, or is his real purpose much more deep? After all, he only seems to hurt people who have hurt others. But then the question becomes, why is he even doing all of this in the first place? We also know that Gaunter heavily relies on trickery, always granting a wish exactly as people say it in words and not as they intended it. Could he potentially be some sort of manifestation of life and consequence itself? After all, it seems that everyone O'Dimm goes after is someone who foolishly is saying things they want without realizing the consequences. So maybe O'Dimm is merely a manifestation of the human condition and its failures of hubris, and his control over time and space can be explained because Gaunter O'Dimm is time and space itself, which also would explain why he can never be killed, because he's an idea, not a man. This would also fit really well with many ancient portrayals of Satan and the devil in Christianity, where he was originally supposed to be a being that craved justice and consequences instead of just being maniacally evil. Either way, while we still don't know who exactly Gaunter O'Dimm is, it's clear that his motives and intentions aren't so black and white. And considering how things are left off with his character, it's clear we might see him in an upcoming sequel or game, which I would love to see. Because sometimes the best villains are ones who always just leave enough room for you to think they might just be doing something good. One thing that seems to be a staple of the majority of medieval and fantasy worlds nowadays is that they almost always appear to be stuck in one time period. While there's thousands of years of complex and gripping history and lore of different empires and magics that envelop the world, the thing that seems to be sorely missing is a real sense of progression. It's almost like no matter what happens, and no matter how many advancements are made, society itself will always be in the same rigid medieval structure that we've grown to be familiar with. But in The Witcher, there's a lot of signs pointing to the fact that the entire continent and series may be on the verge of a massive scientific revolution that could fundamentally change everything. For starters, in the Witcher universe, vaccines and antibiotics, or ways of preventing sickness, are becoming common. In the third game, for example, we can actually help Keira Metz find the cure for the Catriona plague, which is actually just the real-world bubonic plague that Ciri brought to the Witcher world after visiting our own and bringing back a diseased flea. Another example of scientific advancement is places sprouting up like Oxenfurt University, which is home to advanced lectures on math, literature, alchemy, and medicine, all while incorporating lots of seemingly enlightened philosophies like a focus on arts and beauty. Could it be that the Witcher universe is actually on the verge of its own renaissance? On top of this, there's so many new inventions and technologies being worked on throughout the lore, like large-scale teleportation devices Yennefer mentions in the games and books, and even a Professor Oppenhauser at Oxenfurt who successfully made a working perpetual motion machine before it was destroyed when the sorceresses took down Stygia Castle. All this could point to the fact that the Witcher universe is taking from different time periods in our real world, and also that during the conjunction of the spheres, maybe some of this technology and knowledge was ported over. But I like to think that also this really is a turning point in the Witcher universe for the continent to start its own sort of enlightenment that may eventually lead to large-scale machinery and computers. Maybe during The Witcher 6, we'll even be fighting with rocket launchers and machine guns. I'm not sure that would go over well with fans. While my favorite character in the Witcher series would have to be Geralt himself, with his no-nonsense one-liners and suave demeanor, a close second, for me at least, is Vesemir. Because throughout the series, Vesemir plays a key role in being a father figure of sorts to Geralt, as well as most of the remaining Witchers at Kaer Morhen. He is a man of honor, dignity, family, and hard work, and expects the most out of everyone he is close with, while also always being willing to lend a helping hand, either physically or emotionally. And for anyone that's beat The Witcher 3, you know one of the saddest moments in the entire game is the sacrifice that Vesemir makes in order to protect Ciri and Geralt, dying at the hands of the Wild Hunt at Kaer Morhen. But what a lot of players probably don't know is that just before this sequence in game where you must defend a great onslaught, you can actually follow Vesemir around the castle and catch him downstairs and ask an otherwise hidden dialogue option that almost all players have missed out on.
So, ready for battle? How do you feel?
Old. If things don't go as planned, take Ciri and run. As far away from here as you can.
Not a chance. Won't abandon you.
It's not a request, Geralt.
I know, but I'm not your student anymore.
Shame you aren't. Because it seems there's something I failed to teach you. That at times, you can't win without making a sacrifice.
These final words from Vesemir are a big foreshadowing of things to come, and show that deep down, Vesemir likely already knew this moment was coming, and it makes his sacrifice even more noble, knowing that his biggest concern was always not about himself, but for those around him he loved. A great hidden moment for one of the best characters in the entire series. The Curse of the Black Sun is a tale in the Witcher universe that a lot of people might not know about, even though it's one of the most captivating out there. You see, many years ago there was a man named Eltibald who prophesied that soon a solar eclipse would occur, known as the Black Sun, that with it would transform 60 of the girls born under it into cruel and foul creatures that would bring about the destruction of the world. He was a genius and sage to some, and to others nothing but a rambling and maniacal elder who had fallen into madness due to some ailment. But Eltibald was adamant from his studies of ancient Dock tombstones and Woesgore necropolises that this mythology would come true. And this omen led many in the surrounding communities to live in constant fear of the event. So when the next solar eclipse did in fact occur, with the sky turning black, many exclaimed that the prophecy was coming true and that the evil goddess Lilith was to rise again and purge humanity. Because of this, 60 girls born during this event were hunted down mercilessly. Some were killed, while others were given live autopsies to study strange mutations they had as their screams filled the void. But with time it was decided that with only a few of these girls left, they should instead be imprisoned in a tower in order to isolate them from society for further study. This plan didn't work though, as too many princes and men of power began to lust after the beautiful woman, and one by one they were saved from the tower and their own prison. And in an almost self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts, these women that did escape went on to torture and kill many people in their wake, due to the horrors and traumas that they had endured in their entire childhood. In fact, some characters we meet in-game, like Sylvia Anna from the Witcher 3 Blood and Wine DLC, are actually girls from the Curse of the Black Sun event, which shows many have gone on to amass great power. The real questions about this event, though, revolve around whether or not these girls actually were and are a threat to the world. In the original prophecy, it was made clear that at some point, these women, because of their strange mutations, were to transform into monsters that would bring about the demon goddess Lilith, also worshipped under the name Nia, who would then pave the continent in the blood of man. And while we haven't seen any signs of Lilith's return yet, it is strange that the girls that were originally captured and experimented on did have many unknown and confusing mutations in their blood that doctors and mages alike could not understand. But it's also just as likely that these were simply innocent girls who were thrust into a life of torture due to one man's insane ramblings, and then went on to do more evil because of the evil that had been done to them. My guess would be that most of these girls were wrongly accused, but that maybe amongst them lies some truth, an omen to a demon who soon may rise and bring about the end of the world, something that certainly would be fun to explore in future games. While the last couple of years have been a tumultuous time for CD Projekt Red with the catastrophic release of Cyberpunk 2077 and the ensuing drama, recently things have been looking good. And one of the things that has people most excited about the future of the company was the recent announcement that The Witcher 4 is being developed in Unreal Engine 5. We haven't seen much of the game as of the time of writing this script, but what we have seen has led to a lot of speculation in the community. During the original announcement of the game, this promotional art was released showing a Witcher medallion in the snow with the phrase, "A new saga begins." But what at first seems like a fun reveal may actually be hiding a big secret, because that medallion in the snow is unlike any other we have seen in the games or books. You see, each Witcher within the universe wears a medallion that signifies which Witcher school they came from. For example, we can see in the games Geralt wearing a wolf's medallion to signify that he comes from the School of the Wolf, founded by Barman and currently headed by Vesemir. But the medallion in the snow picture is actually that of a lynx, and the reason that's so significant is we have never heard of or seen any such school in the Witcher lore before. We know of many other prominent schools like that of the cat, viper, and wolf, but there are also many others that have been forgotten to time. So could this Lynx medallion actually be a clue that we will be playing as a band of long lost and forgotten Witchers and a school teaching things we have never seen before? One prominent theory in the community right now postulates that the School of the Lynx may actually even be an offshoot of the School of the Cat. Lynx and cats are both felines, so the connection seems immediately obvious, but considering that all Witchers in the School of the Cat were apparently killed during the attack on Stygia Castle, this seems unlikely. That is until we read this entry from the Witcher card game Gwent about the Witchers during the attack on Stygia Castle, which reads, "As for those who were not present during the attack, they continue to roam the world's roots, embittered, hungry for vengeance, with nothing left to lose." So could it be that, contrary to popular belief, some of the Witchers from the School of the Cat did survive and have gone on to found a new school based on entirely new principles and foundations that will lead to the creation of whatever Witcher we play as in this new series? In my opinion, this would be an awesome way to begin a new trilogy, as it would give us a lot of familiar foundations while also leaving room for a lot of experimentation and new customs in the Witcher Bible. Either way, we'll just have to wait and see. While Toussaint might be the most beautiful place we can travel to in The Witcher 3, beneath all of its sugarcoating is potentially one of the most startling revelations in the entire series. We already discussed how Toussaint may be home to a massive networks of volcanoes and underground lava, but Mother Nature isn't the only thing to worry about in this pseudo-paradise. Because throughout our time in Toussaint, it becomes very clear that vampires play a very big role in the area. Many are being summoned all across the zone, with tons of reports of missing and kidnapped townsfolk cropping up everywhere. On top of this, Toussaint is also home to the most powerful vampire we have met yet, named the Unseen Elder, a title granted to him due to his name not truly being known, and his legacy as one of the very old higher vampires that have inconceivable powers of strength, speed, and perception. Originally, the Unseen Elder was trapped on the continent after the conjunction of spheres, and he has been guarding the gate or portal between the world of the vampires and that of the Witcher world ever since, becoming angry at anyone entering his chamber and disturbing his sleep. This has resulted in many strong and fearsome vampires remaining in the area and helping the cause, but as to how widespread of an issue this really is where this gets a lot more interesting. Because if there's one thing vampires truly care about, it's their food. The better a humanoid's diet, exercise, and lower their stress levels, the better they will taste and the more they will help their vampire brethren when bitten. So could it be that there's a lot more than meets the eye when we consider Toussaint itself? After all, the entire zone almost feels like a paradise in the middle of what is otherwise war-torn, debaucherous, and hellish places full of death, despair, and gloomy weather. But Toussaint is different. It has endless amounts of flavorful wine, a lush color palette, and bustling and thriving cities full of many happy townsfolk living out their days. To some, it may seem like this is actually a good thing, but for the more inquisitive in the community, some have begun to wonder if there's actually a much more sinister undertone beneath it all, which would be very fitting for The Witcher. You see, if you read a lot of the lore entries in game revolving around vampires, it seems clear that Toussaint was one of, if not the first places they settled on the continent, meaning they have been around forever. And over time, the zone has only gotten better and better, while even some of the areas surrounding it directly have succumbed to hardship. Could it be that the vampires that originally came to Toussaint are using it as a sort of breeding ground for themselves, luring in unsuspecting victims by fostering the growth of a paradise of sorts, where the wine is always flowing, the people are always happy, and most importantly, everyone is healthy and fit and in confined areas, the perfect kind of environment for vampires in the universe. Maybe what at first looks like a fairy tale come to life is actually nothing more than one of the most dark and twisted zones we have seen in the Witcher series yet, with entire cities of townsfolk happily living out their lives without knowing that their real fate is to be consumed by all-powerful higher vampire lords that have set up a trap to breed absolute behemoths of war. This would also explain the unbelievable amount of underground tunnels, ruins, and caves beneath Toussaint, as potentially these early vampires have been planning out this facade for some time now. On top of this too, we know that vampires themselves even enjoy wine and blood together, so the massive production of wine in vineyards would have been a big reason for them to stop here in the first place. But regardless of how true this theory really is, ideas like this are, to me at least, what make the Witcher series so great, and get me excited for future installments that might even add more lore and backstory to otherwise mysterious zones.